I'd like to apologize for some technical audio issues on this episode, but I don't want to apologize so much that I won't still bring you the episode we recorded. So, enjoy. Welcome to Stitches in Time, the podcast discussing Doctor Who the way it was meant to be watched, in chronological order, one clip at a time, starting at the Big Bang and ending with the heat death of the universe. I'm Becca, the Matrix Archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing the entire televised Doctor Who universe into chronological order.
And I'm Mandy, and my upskirts have also caused incidents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very common for just panties create weird time loop shenanigans. Isn't that always how it goes?
I guess we'll find out. I'm wearing a very skimpy tube top because I was gonna wear a very short skirt, but the video frame does not capture that.
I mean, you look naked right now.
Yes, yeah. That's what I'm going for. Maybe, I don't know. And joining us today on the podcast is actor, improviser, singer, and of course, you all know her as a mom of a 16-month-old. It's Jessica Reiner-Harris.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here.
Our sole listener is that 16-month-old, and that's why everyone knows.
He's currently crying that her mommy's in a different room and is listening intently right now.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. Well, this is for him later.
Yeah.
It's okay. She was here doing this.
Right.
Now you understand.
She gets it now.
You felt so abandoned.
Mommy has to make content.
You know what's sad is I'm sure there are people who have said that unironically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are mommy bloggers who have said, mommy needs to make content. Like, that's real. Ooh.
For sure. Yes, and today we are talking about space and time.
Well, we're always talking about space and time, but what's the episode?
Space and time.
This is like who's on first.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're gonna do
Doctor
a whole
Who's on first.
Yeah, Doctor Who's on first. I don't think we've nailed the episode title so cleanly so early in the podcast. I think you just named the episode of the podcast. Yes, this is specifically the 2011 comic relief specials, one of which is called Space, and the other of which is called Time. Okay?
Amazing.
Safest spot available. The TARDIS has materialized inside itself.
Is that supposed to happen?
Take a guess.
No.
That's the one.
Yeah, and this is the episode that just makes a lot of jokes about Amy's skirt and horny boys.
It was my fault.
Of course it wasn't your fault.
It kind of was her fault.
How could it be her fault?
Because it was my skirt and my husband and your glass floor.
Oh, Rory!
Sorry.
Yeah, and we have to lead in the previous thing that we had seen in the Stitches in Time timeline were some asteroids that we also learned were prisons on the asteroids. And then our next things, we see the ship shake and learn that was caused by Rory looking up Amy's skirt, to which I have to presume that the things happening with the asteroid was happening up Amy's skirt.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do know, like, going into my previous Doctor Who knowledge of, like, with the whole River Song birth and stuff like that, like, weird stuff is happening there. I just didn't realize that's what it was.
Yeah.
And in fairness to Rory, yeah, I would be a little concerned.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but it does, they do talk about weird stuff that happens when you become a mother in the time vortex.
Thank
And
God I just did it in boring old now.
yeah, how does this compare with your experience of Mother?
I would say it's not quite accurate. Interesting because with Amy in particular, and by they, I just mean in general, she's sexualized a lot. Like her, just in our introduction to her, not as the little girl, but as the like kissogram or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's not this episode, obviously, but like, this was for comic relief, so they went full tilt, I guess. But it always sort of was like, okay.
Yeah, it's a bit like I am a pole dancer and work burlesque shows and is generally a slut on the internet, and it's a little like, even I'm like, calm down a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of makes me feel like there's a lot more to her than that, y'all. I mean, it was funny she hit on herself for sure.
And as a Loop on the Third fan, I can appreciate the self-cessed. And that, and as a person where if I'm on any kind of like reflective surface, I will lose all focus on what I'm supposed to be paying attention on, and I would just be looking at myself,
right?
Because I have a bird brain, apparently.
I mean, I do that too, but it's more because I'm trans and I'm not quite used to being like, oh, there's a girl in that reflection. Ooh, interesting. I wonder if she will talk to me.
Oh,
She won't.
Will she? Oh no!
I'm too hot for me. Wait.
And now we're in time loop. See?
Yes, exactly.
I feel like that should be the goal. Like, I should be too hot for myself.
Yeah. I think we're all too hot for ourselves.
And that's the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I really look like that? Yeah. Yeah, you do. Ooh, I'd give you a driving license. I bet you would.
Oh, this is how it all ends. Pond flirting with herself, true love at last.
I do think it's really funny that like that moment is just such a clear like Stephen Moffat just like fantasizing a little too hard. It's just like,
I know.
okay.
It's so interesting because I really like Moffat's writing, and I really like various things he's done even besides Doctor Who, but sometimes it's like, really?
Yeah,
like just watching you play with the idea, like Rory's his insert, like
it's I actually don't know whether I've talked about this yet, because we've definitely had Moffat things, but we haven't had a lot of Moffat in order to really do his predilections to like see it in the forefront. But a thing for Moffat for me, everything unlocked when I saw a previous show that he did.
Was it Coupling?
Coupling, yes, Coupling. Coupling was really the Rosetta Stone for me of Stephen Moffat as a writer. He's a phenomenal writer. He also can write women very well, so long as he is not horny for them. As soon as he is horny for them, he puts them on a pedestal and they cannot get down from that pedestal, and he forgets how to write them. Like Clara as a character did not like until she was going through grief, and then grief isn't sexy, and then she became a phenomenal character.
Yeah.
It is interesting also because there is another, and we will get to it at some point in the podcast. I don't remember where the random number generator landed this one, but there's a DVD extra with Clara, and it's like early on, it's like when she's getting acquainted with the TARDIS, and there's another joke about two Claras fucking each other.
Yikes.
It's just like, okay, buddy.
I watched a show he did that was just on BBC. I don't even know how my partner got it, but called Someone Gets Canceled. Someone Gets Canceled.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched that.
It's actually really good. I didn't like the first two episodes, and then by the third episode, I was like, oh, I wasn't supposed to like the first two episodes. Now I understand what we're doing here. And I appreciated Karen Gillan's arc in that, because at first I was like, ew, it's the same old thing, like the pretty young, and then, she became way more interesting. But it was, he definitely has like a clear type.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch that because
it's really good. It's good.
Douglas is canceled.
Douglas.
You can find it look it up on the Pirate Bay. Or do what my partner does and use a VPN as well as their sister in England's address.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So long as she keeps paying her cable license.
That doesn't even really seem illegal at that point. Because it's not. Because there is no ethical consumption under capitalism.
No.
Anyway.
This episode does there's the horniness, but this does also feature one of my favorite time travel tropes, and it is something that, and I'm sorry, I am now going to talk about Homestuck for what I'm sure is the 80th time on this podcast, but my favorite bit in Homestuck,
the fact that I still don't actually know what Homestuck is,
I have no idea. My brain went to Homestar Runner, which just
yeah.
me.
Same, yeah.
So
yeah.
Same, Jessica. I think that we're trying to record a podcast here.
Lemonade, Melonade. I used to think that was the funniest thing that had ever been written when I was in college. Homestar Runner was...
And you were right.
Yeah, no, that is correct. That is objectively...
A nice glass of Melonade.
Anyway, so Homestuck is... it's difficult to call it simply a webcomic, but it is mostly a webcomic about some kids play a video game, and the video game ends the world, and also they're gods of a new world. It's very strange, but at some point they get aliens, and those aliens are also playing the game, and there's some time travel, but it's very short-term time travel, which involves a lot of characters being like talking to themselves 5 minutes in the future, but it's within 5 minutes in which they have learned very important information. And they are the future versions of themselves are very angry at the previous versions of themselves for being so stupid. Because how could you possibly not understand this thing? It's so obvious. I'm like, well, I don't have the 5 minutes of experience. And it's one of my favorite things in time travel generally, of if people getting to interact with previous versions of themselves and seeing and kind of dealing with the shame of who they were previously. And it's like how you've grown, but how I've grown in such a shameful, why was I ever so dumb way? But the shorter that period of time is, the funnier it is. And so we get that a bit with Amy, because the version of herself is from like very close in the future.
Right.
And she's just very like,
I don't understand. Neither do I. But you just said it. No, I'm just repeating it. I'm just remembering what I heard myself saying when I was standing where you are now and repeating it. I'm just repeating this too.
Yeah, we're going to keep going over this. Yeah, I will keep on saying this and this and this. And you're going to keep being surprised by this. And I have no idea why. I'm like, that's you like 40 seconds ago.
Well, it also reminds me of when I was a kid. I remember having this very distinct existential crisis, going to Sunday school and being like, okay, so did God make me do that? 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 Did God make me say that?
Terrifying.
I mean, fast forward 20 years later, diagnosed OCD, but neither here nor there. Her little thing of like, and that, and you'll say that. And I'm like, ooh, that tickles a memory of just like time and who's in control, and we're destined to repeat whatever time has set out for us, and like where is free will, and and I was like, oh, interesting. Thanks, comic relief.
The only touch point I have for this kind of thing is Back to the Future 2, when like just watching old Biff scolding young Biff and be like, would you pay attention? This is important. And he's just like, get off my back, old man. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite whenever science fiction time travel stuff gets to do it. But the shorter the time, the funnier it is.
It's very good in this.
And this is overall, again, I feel bad that this episode is mostly just known as, oh, Moffat's being horny again, when the actual stuff in it, like the main conceit of it, is, I think, very funny and very clever, the way that they do stuff in a very short period of time.
It's really good. Well, and it's basically like a condensed version of the series 5 finale. There's just the whole thing of like, oh, Amy's in the Pandorica. I know you don't remember what the Pandorica is, Mandy.
Well, we haven't got there yet. So if
Right.
anything, this is a preview to the Pandorica.
Yes, I'm sorry, this is a preview. But like she even says it's the same line when little Amy opens the Pandorica and Big Amy's in there, and Big Amy is like, okay, kid, this is where it gets complicated. And then she says that line again here, which I think is a very like clever, subtle callback to the fact that they're doing the same thing they did in that episode, except instead of 40 minutes, it's 5. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
And do we want a Mandy-splaining segment to say what this is at all?
Oh, yeah. I assumed that's what the asteroids in Amy's crotch were. But
asteroid upskirt. But the asteroid upskirt causes the TARDIS to appear within itself, which means that they are stuck in it because they can't, if they exit into you.
Wait. So if they exit,
they go back in
to Amy.
I guess so. That's a different one, and I feel like that's what Moffat wanted. But someone had to tell him no. The famous line from Homestuck, you're gonna have a baby and the baby is you.
Wow.
And the baby is you. Sorry.
That's funny.
Oh, Hoop Mustang.
Hoop Mustang reference. The whole River is Amy's daughter, and then was also the friend back in the day, and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
I will say, for something about my brain, welcome to the Doctor Who podcast, with the timey-wimey stuff, like, I think that's what impresses me the most about you putting it in chronological order, is that when I'm watching with Matt, I mean, he's the like stalwart, knows all the trivia guy about Doctor Who, and I'm like, this is fun. And during Moffat's seasons, in particular with the Amy River stuff, Rory stuff, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like the who's who and when stuff is so bonkers to me sometimes. And so I appreciated that this little snippet was like playing with time and like just all the abilities of time and space, and how there are definitely holes in the logic, but who cares? And, all that stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate we're just going to do sci-fi as a plot thing, and it works the way that the plot needs it to.
Yeah.
Right. Me, wibbly wobbly, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I switched it. It's backwards. Strike that, reverse it. Wibbly wobbly, timey.
Timely toppily wobbly, timely wimely.
That's the one. That's it.
Yeah. Nailed it. Okay, speaking of wibbly, the wibbly lever is the magic solution to this problem.
You don't know which lever?
No, but I'm about to find out. The wibbly lever! The wibbly lever! Thank you!
And I couldn't help but notice that I don't really know what the word wibbly means, but the wibbly lever didn't look particularly wibbly to me. I don't know if anybody else got on that. It just was up.
It's like of the Kiki and Booba of, it was not Booba enough.
Yeah.
What?
Do you know the Kiki and Booba thing?
I don't.
So
oh my gosh,
they've
really
done, so they've done studies of basically, if you ask a person, like, imagine Kiki, draw Kiki, and like make a shape that's Kiki, and they're like, make a shape that's Booba. Everyone will do the same thing, where like the Kiki will be like sharp and angular, and Booba will be very round.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of like the way that we visualize sound and language and put that together. And it
It's
even
almost
goes to
like
like,
synesthesia. It's like, what shape
Yeah.
is this word?
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, they've done these studies. They'll literally have two shapes drawn, and one of them is just very kind of jagged and like a lot of sort of acute angles, and the other one is it's rounder and it's more circular. And they've gone to like, all of these different cultures and cultures that have had like no contact with, the Western world or whatever, like, and it's flawlessly like Kiki is the sharp one and Booba is the rounded one.
No, I've never heard of that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
that's not Wibbly.
Yeah,
No.
that is not Wibbly.
Yeah.
I will also give an appreciation to the TARDIS, again, just having a weird lever for everything. We already know that it has a butterfly effect button,
True. Yep.
and now we got we got the, oh no, the TARDIS is inside itself button.
True.
She really is ready for everything.
Yeah. And I also, I guess it sort of makes sense, because if you don't have like a specific name for a thing, but like in your mind you just call it something, even though that doesn't apply to it, so maybe that's what's going on, is just like,
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like the thing, Bob.
yeah.
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 I appreciated Matt Smith's delivery with a lot of this stuff. A lot of the jokes in relation to what was happening. Like, this is how the world ends. Just like sort of dry. I appreciated him very much in this little clip.
Yeah. It's such a short comedy sketch, but immediately he's like, well, we're trapped here forever. There are no answers. We're doomed.
Yeah, exactly. No one can ever leave and come out ever again. But what's the reality is, and I have this talk with Matt a lot, the issue with Doctor Who, even though I actively like it and watch it all the time, is it's hard for me to really care about a lot of it. Like, the stakes don't exist because there's always a wibbly lever, or it's always the end of the universe. So like both things were represented in this episode, or in this clip, where it's just like, oh God, you should be devastated and scared, except, oh, here's a wibbly lever. Like, everything has a fix. And so I never really get emotionally invested, which is why I like the fun stuff more than the like heartfelt stuff. Because I mean, heartfelt I can do, but like if there's like danger or whatever,
like the big dramatic things.
The stakes are kind of difficult when it's always the end of the world, and there's always a button that will fix it.
And honestly, never is that more apparent than in the Stitches in Time edit, where it's just like, stuff's going on, and all of a sudden you get to like 2005 to 2020, and it's like, man, the world's ending like every 6 months. What is going on here?
I mean, as of right now, all we ever see is a bunch of big scary rocks and then people chilling.
Yeah. But I like remember when Sacha Dhawan was the master, just like, ha 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 ha, being like, you got nothing. Like, I can't freak out, man. Like, I can't freak out about it. This has happened 18 times. Like, so I appreciated that this little sketch was sort of, there is no solution. Oh, wait.
Oh, we have to solve this in 3 minutes because of the time slot we have. Okay.
Also, like, that's why I mean, I know I'm not in this clip right now, but that's why I appreciate Chirigatwa so much, because even though I recognize that the stakes are pretend and not real, and I know things are going to resolve, his acting and
Just
crying.
crying every
And
episode.
I'm immediately emotional. And
Yeah.
I don't usually do that with Doctor Who. I'm usually like, yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I feel it from him, man.
Yeah, yes, and like that's another reason why I think like Christopher Eccleston was really good, because
Yeah.
like it wasn't so much crying for him, but there was a lot of just like, I don't know, the raw. I'm just thinking of like Dalek and just all of this kind of raw
Like,
anger in him. Yeah, and it's just like that's what the show is. That's what the stakes are. Like the end of the universe is the end of the universe, whatever. But like
exactly.
when you
Yeah.
have to like, or like when David Tennant has to say goodbye to Rose Tyler forever. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult when kind of the stakes are outside, because we know that's going to get wrapped up. We know you aren't ending the universe.
Right. Because we have to keep doing a show. So,
Yeah. So you got to
Yeah.
make the stakes small.
Right.
right.
Also, how many times has been like, well, the Doctor is dead. Really? Because I'm pretty sure he's been recast already. I heard about
We know the next Doctor. I know.
Yeah.
Well, also, since the Timeless Child, like, really, there can be as many Doctors as needed.
For sure.
So there, before there was even the sort of thing of like, well, there can only be this many, and now it's like, we'll do this for centuries. My daughter will have a favorite Doctor when she's 87. Like,
Yeah,
which is cool. I love that about it.
yeah.
But
No,
it
it's
just
great.
makes everything a little less investable in like a genuine emotional way.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is why, like Mandy said, like each episode, like a small stake, like an emotional stake in what's happening right now matters
Yeah.
versus the world is over stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I like, this is also around the time that I kind of left Doctor Who, of like the last season, to what you were saying of like the whole River Song bit. I was kind of like, this is too much. It's confusing. And I realized that I don't care.
Yeah.
And then I watched like Capaldi's first episode, and I was like, oh, this definitely is not for me anymore. And I left. I did go back. Like, Capaldi is what made me quit. Capaldi is also what brought me back in, like seeing
I
his
love
stuff, and
Capaldi.
it got a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciated that Capaldi. I liked the transition between Matt and Capaldi because it was such a distinction. And I think Clara's reaction to it was very much the audience's reaction to it. And so I liked the whole, can't you see me? I'm still me. Like, sort of, I don't know, he was sort of confused, and I don't know, something about, so there's that example again of like that episode actually did make me feel, even though I totally get people being like, I'm out. Like, I understand that as well, but for me it was more like, oh, this is interesting. We started at Eccleston, but I started watching when Capaldi was current. So by that time I was like about to be caught up with the current running series. So I wasn't particularly emotionally connected in like a that's my Doctor way to any of the previous ones. So when they switched, I was like, oh, okay, they're switching now, because I know they switch. So like there was no like, oh no. So I liked seeing that sort of sadness and angst between them, like between Matt and Capaldi. But I also know a lot of people who felt the same way of like, I'm done. We're good.
And it wasn't even that, like, it wasn't anything on Capaldi, and I've definitely talked about this on the podcast before. It was the bit where Clara's reaction to this. Clara, a beautiful young woman, as written by a middle-aged man, going, no, I'm definitely still attracted to the Doctor. I love old men.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm not here. And then ironically, the thing that brought me back, which is generally considered the worst episode of that arc, is the one with the egg.
The moon one.
The moon is the egg, and it's not the episode. The episode is horrible, except for the last 5 minutes where Clara is like, why did you do this? Why did you just play a little game with me? Why am I in a saw trap now? And I was like, I like you. You realize that you are in a saw trap.
It's a good analogy, for sure.
Yeah. Well, then I also liked the sort of arc that happened after that of she was like, all right, we're doing one more.
Yeah.
Just
literally everything gets good from there. And that is the like, it is the lowest point of it. And it's one of those things, like the episode kind of made me angry because I was like, was that intentional? Was this kind of like, because if you look at it from the thing of like, she's in this entire episode is a saw trap, then it's a much better episode.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it was like, I don't know, Capaldi took me a while to get on board with, but like, so I started watching the show when David Tennant was the current Doctor, and I also started with Eccleston, but like, you know, I think they were probably in the like season 3 or something when I started watching, and so that was like once I kind of caught up, then I became like, oh, okay, David Tennant is my Doctor because I have to wait a week or a year for the next episode. Like, and I feel like David Tennant and Matt Smith both kind of got me on board with them immediately.
Yeah.
As dumb as the Wibbly Lever is, I just love the bit of particularly like the Doctor realizing, oh, I actually don't need to solve this. I just need to wait a minute and I will have already solved this.
Yeah. Which is honestly very much Time Crash, which we've talked about and we will talk about again. This is a solution that, I know how to do this because I watched myself do it.
Psychologically speaking, that's kind of helpful. Like, I know that in 20 minutes, I will have solved this.
Yeah.
So, like,
Ooh.
all the anxiety about, like, what do I do? How do I solve this? It's like, okay, future me, you can say, you know, people say, like, oh, in a year, you won't even remember this. Like, no, in 20 minutes, I will have figured this out, whatever that entails. So if you think of it in terms of, like, you know, future you has got this, it sort of lowers the
oh my God.
cortisol.
That's very smart.
This is such a good life. Like, I'm going to start doing that for just like, okay, an hour from now, I will have done laundry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then
Like an hour from me now, it will be so happy that I've done this laundry. I think that's the frame that you have to do. Because if like, oh, if they will do it, you're not going to do it because now you has to do it. But future you will be happy that now you did it.
Right.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is really the line of hard sci-fi, soft sci people. This does not work if you are a hard sci-fi person. There is no legitimate reason. Like, we're not given a reason. We're just told that he solved it later at some point, and now we're just going to roll on by it. And I love that because I love the softest, squishiest sci-fi you can. I hate hard sci-fi. I do not want to hear about your spaceship. I do not want to know about like, here's how this thing could really happen. I just give me a plot story, and the sci-fi is making the plot happen.
It's also one of the things I love the most, like, about Doctor Who specifically, is because the show has so much history that nobody knows it all. The rules about time travel are sort of governed by whoever's writing this episode.
Exactly.
Because if you like went back and had to be like, okay, this is how the TARDIS works. Like, these are the circuits under the column or whatever. And then, you know, sometimes you're just like, no, it's sentient. And sometimes it just...
Yeah, it's a lady. And the lady wanted to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I prefer that too. I much prefer that. I would clock out real fast if it was too technical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking that that's what Star Trek was. I thought Star Trek was hard sci-fi because of the way that people, not even the way that people talk about it, but the way that pop culture informed me that Star Trek fans would be, because their main thing is like, we're going to have somebody talking in Klingon, and the fact that that's a language that you can actually speak is like, oh, that's cool. I don't want to watch your show, because if that's the sort of thing where like, you're going to teach me how to learn a language, sorry, no thank you. And then I learned, no, it's a show where they go to Planet Scotland and a lady fucks a candle, and that's more my jam.
I have never watched Star Trek. So.
Well, there's an episode where they go to Planet Scotland, and she doesn't fuck the candle. There's a ghost in the candle, and she fucks that ghost.
Yeah.
And also, it was her grandmother.
Different.
It was her grandmother's candle, and her grandmother also fucked that ghost.
Aw.
I have not watched that much Star Trek, but I have seen that, like, basically that season.
Wow.
That was the first episode of Star Trek that I had ever seen. I had seen the 2009 movie and nothing, and then that. And that was like, oh yeah, I should watch Star Trek.
That's the moment. Okay, cool.
Wow.
Well, let this be a message to all Doctor Who fans, and Star Trek fans, like, because people say, like, oh, if you want to, like, get somebody into Doctor Who, like, show them Blink. It's like, okay. But yeah, if you want to get somebody into Star Trek, watch The Candle Fucker. Is that the name of the episode? I don't actually know.
That's the name of the episode, yeah. For sure.
I did learn a fun Doctor Who fact by way of Star Trek. Apparently, between not the second Doctor according to Stitches in Time, but the second Doctor according to the BBC,
Sure.
who I can't remember what number he is now.
I wrote them all down. Last time we had Mandy's partner Ben on, and they pointed out that we refer to the doctors by number, but that doesn't work in Stitches in Time. So
Right.
I've written down. So the second Doctor, I'm sorry, Patrick Troughton's Doctor, is not here yet.
Okay, so Patrick Troughton, whenever we see him, like between the season where Patrick Troughton's Doctor regenerates and Pertwee appears, in that same time slot in between those like airing, all of the original Star Trek was aired. So people watch
really?
the original Star Trek in the BBC, waiting to find out who was coming after Patrick Troughton.
Interesting.
That's wild.
It's a good way to pass that kind of time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So theoretically,
So Stitches in Time has to be like when he dies, you just put all of Star Trek in
so
there.
maybe Patrick Troughton regenerated into William Shatner.
Oh man.
And then William Shatner regenerated into John Pertwee. I don't know.
I think I guess Shatner died. You could also do it with Spock, because I know that he dies sooner and could regenerate, but then they also make a separate guy who's him again. So it's kind of a Tennant situation.
Sorry, William Shatner regenerates into Chris Pine, who
Best Chris.
the
Chris
best
Pine, yeah.
Chris. Honestly,
Best Chris.
the thing that like got me on board with like Chris Pine is the best Chris, Into the Woods.
Yeah.
Like,
Agony.
his
Stole that
performance in
movie.
Agony was just like,
The
oh my
movie was
god.
crappy, and then
Yeah.
Agony happened, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh my
Okay.
god. Chris
Yeah.
Pine is maybe the greatest actor of
Yeah.
our generation.
No, I had the same experience.
He
was so
has
mad at
Paul
that
Rudd's
movie, and-
problem where he's definitely a weird actor, but he's so beautiful that they put him as the leading man in things. And you can definitely see now that he's aging a little bit, and he's like, oh, I get to be weird now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they don't want me to have a six-pack.
That's so
True.
funny. That's true. Yeah. When pretty people are actually interesting, they're like, please let me do something.
That's all I have about was it Space and Time that we were talking about? I don't even
Yeah.
remember.
All of Space and Time fits
All of Space and
into,
Time.
what is this going to be cut down to, a 30-minute?
Probably. Thank you for joining us, Jessica. If people want to follow you on the internet,
Clips and funny songs and things. If you
Mhm.
Google Jessica Reiner-Harris, I'm the only one. So you'll get a lot
Great.
of stuff that pop up.
cool. You heard it here first. Go to Jessica Reiner-Harris's website, google.com, to find all.
JessicaReinerHarris.com works too. But Google
Okay, great.
will net you more because I haven't looked at that website in 78 years. So
Fair. Cool. Well,
So
we will-
go to Jessica Rader Harris's website, godaddy.com. This
Yeah.
domain is available.
probably.
for all of the multiple Jessica Reiner-Harrises in our listening audience who are like, oh, that
stepped
she
into the
got
chart
the
at 5
website.
Oh yeah.
And I got stuck with Jessica Rader Harris.pizza.
And all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Stitches in Time. Music by Becca the Matrix Archivist. Art by Mandy Akenda. Logo by Ben Patton. Did you know you can listen to this podcast with your eyeballs? Subscribe to us on YouTube.
I look frozen from where I am.
You look frozen from where we are as well.
What's happening?
Yes.
I can hear and see a picture of myself. Why?
Yes.
Is this happening?
We can hear
I mean,
you.
as Frozen pictures go, it's not a bad one.
I mean,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Your eyes are
know.
open. It's a good.
Yeah. You really lucked out on that one.
No. Why do I get slapped? Because we have to stick to the established chain of events. One mistake and the whole timeline could collapse. We'll end up with two Amy Ponds forever. And then what would you do?
I'm gonna double up for a second. I'm gonna be Amy right now.
Amazing. We'll film
Are you
you
gonna
in 3D.
smooch yourself, or you just got to give yourself bedroom eyes?
I think I'm good. Let me sign out from the phone. This is
Bye,
why
phone.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
There we go.
Yay. Okay.
Hi.
Hey. So 5 minutes ago, gonna die. Her phone was gonna die. Her phone was gonna die. So I'm here now.
So you
Great.
hit the wibbly lever, and now you're
I
here.
hit the wibbly